When you're a fan of a team who just had a poor season, you're going to hold out hope for the glorious one-year turnaround. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world as a sports fan to watch your team get good out of nowhere, and it's something that keeps us fans of bad organizations coming back. But odds are, they're probably still going to be bad. However, pretty much every year, we see a team or set of teams that come into the season with low expectations and end up shocking everybody. And only the most delusional could have predicted what some of these teams in this video were able to pull off. To get some perspective about how insane some of these teams were, we need context. Let's start at the bottom of this pyramid with some basic examples of the average NFL turnaround and work our way up. Although impressive, the turnarounds at this level happen so frequently you could provide endless historical examples. So we will just use teams from the 2023 season.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 5-game home winning streak for the Chicago Bears.
The Bears, along with the Broncos and Colts, made up some of the worst teams in the NFL back in 2022. Then, in 2023, all three improved their records, and by all means took a step in the right direction. But at the same time, none of them made the playoffs. Plus, for the Bears and Broncos, it wasn't all that shocking that they improved, considering preseason odds expected them to win about as many games as they did. And their starting quarterbacks didn't work in the end, so their fans won't remember back on these seasons too fondly. The Colts also had quarterback issues, considering rookie Anthony Richardson suffered a season-ending injury. However, new head coach Shane Steichen has given fans plenty of reasons to be hopeful. Considering how disastrous 2022 was for this ball club, odds makers had them set to win around 6 to 7 games, and instead, they won 9.
Man, this is good. This is good.
2023 was certainly promising for the Colts, but you gotta at least make the playoffs to make it to our next tier. But before we dive into this next tier, let me tell you about something that you can surprisingly turn around: the quality of your skin, which can be pleasantly improved with today's video sponsor, Geology. Personally, I've always had a hard time keeping up with a skincare routine. Like many guys, I understand the importance of a skincare routine, but have no idea what to use or where to even start. Everyone has unique needs when it comes to skincare, and that's where Geology makes it easy. Geology creates a simple and effective skincare routine personalized to you. It starts with a 60-second quiz. Tell them about your skin goals, and they will develop a derm-grade personalized routine and deliver it right to your door. When I took the quiz, I got the regimen number 26, and the routine starts when I wake up with the everyday face wash for 30 seconds. And after rinsing, I apply the morning cream, which has my face feeling fresh and moisturized for the day. Then at night, I use the face wash once again. Then after rinsing, I apply the nourishing eye cream under my eyes. Then finally, I spread a dab of the repairing night cream equally across my face. Boom, easy as that. I have my face feeling clean and fresh to end my day. Geology prides itself on efficacy. It's not just about looking and feeling good, it's about delivering results. And with over 10,000 5-star reviews and 32 prestigious awards, it's clear that people love the product and that Geology is changing the game. So what are you waiting for? Don't sift through endless products. Click the link below and use my code KTO70 and grab 70% off your personalized skincare trial set. Also remember this, there's a 50% off on add-ons waiting for you.
Clear your calendar in January, everybody! The postseason is back in Cleveland!
Normally, when a team experiences 4 different quarterbacks to start multiple games on top of losing their best offensive player, they end up being one of the worst teams in the NFL. But that wasn't the case for the 2023 Cleveland Browns. They won 7 games back in 2022. Then in 2023, they made the playoffs with 11 wins. Considering the revolving door of quarterbacks, it's no wonder Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year. But they did get blown out in the first round of the playoffs. And because of how big of an investment they made in Deshaun Watson, Browns fans remain pessimistic about their future, ranking near the bottom of the NFL's fan optimism meter. Now, a much more hopeful fan base is that of the LA Rams. Of course, it helps that they won a Super Bowl recently, but the fallout after that Super Bowl win was rough. From Matt Stafford's injury to an overall lackluster roster, odds makers expected them to win around 6 to 7 games. Through 9 weeks, they held a 3-6 record coming off of back-to-back blowout losses. It was the perfect time to fold and look forward to the next season. Instead, they won 7 of their next 8, Stafford looked awesome down the stretch, and overall, the Rams surprised everybody when they made the playoffs before losing in round 1. The next team in this tier was another NFC playoff team. The Packers land here because they were expected to be average to mediocre with the transition away from Aaron Rodgers. But this guy proved by the end of the season that he is a baller. Like the Rams, they started 3-6 before going on a remarkable 8-game run to make the playoffs. Then they dominated the Cowboys in the wild card and nearly beat the 49ers. Like the Packers, the Buccaneers transitioned away from a Hall of Fame quarterback. In the absence of Brady, the Bucs signed Baker Mayfield, who was expected to be a placeholder starter amidst a rebuild. Instead, the team bounced back, rallied around their new quarterback, and not only won their division, but also beat the Eagles in the postseason. But their season ended to the Lions, who were expected to be a playoff team, but to be as dominant as they were, plus making a run to the conference title game, was not as much expected. You gotta consider the weight of the history behind this feat. They hadn't been to the playoffs in 7 years, and they hadn't won a playoff game since 1991. Whenever a team overcomes a kind of drought that they had been in, that team will automatically be etched in history for their accomplishment. However, as special as their playoff run was, there was another team that had the most impressive one-year turnaround in 2023, and they take us to our next tier.
Lovie Smith, guys. Fired by the Texans after 1 year. I think what did it was that win on the you know, that number 1 overall pick? I'm out of here anyway. All right, guys.
In the season finale of 2022, to the dismay of Texans fans, head coach Lovie Smith led the team to a win. You see, when a team is so bad, there's a turning point during the season where the fans start cheering for draft position rather than the playoffs. It's a strategy that is at the center of debates year in and year out. This win versus the Colts cost them the number 1 pick. It was clear they were drafting a quarterback, and now they didn't have priority selection. In other words, the 2022 season was such a disaster, the Texans couldn't even lose properly. Ultimately, this landed them CJ Stroud, as well as the 3rd overall pick, linebacker Will Anderson. The Texans were led by a first-time head coach and a rookie quarterback starting day 1 with unproven talent around him. Considering they had hired and fired 2 head coaches in 2 years, the instability combined with how poor the roster looked from afar led many to believe that this team would struggle. In fact, they were tied with the Cardinals for the lowest Super Bowl odds in the NFL. After an 0-2 start, things had gone about as expected. But then, CJ Stroud started balling.
First down. He was looking downfield. He's going downfield toward the end zone. Down! Leaping grab! He's got it! Touchdown, Texans!
When it was all said and done, the Texans had completely surprised everybody. CJ Stroud won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Will Anderson won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Both their offense and defense improved dramatically, and they found themselves not only in the playoffs, but blowing out the Browns in the wild card. Pretty impressive stuff. Also, we are now at the level of one-year turnarounds where we have to start going back historically to find other examples. The 1991 Broncos went from 5-11 to 12-4 with a conference title appearance. The 1999 Colts went from 3 wins to 13, behind the significant improvement of a young Peyton Manning. The 2007 Dolphins were atrocious and only won a single game. Then they followed that up with an 11-5 record and a wild card appearance. The 2004 Steelers went from 6-10 to 15-1 with a conference championship appearance, which was the second time in their history they went from 6 wins to the AFC Championship game. The crazy part about that 04 team was it featured a rookie Big Ben, who went 13-0 as a starter. It's hard to imagine we'll see another rookie post a record like that anytime soon. The 1996 Jaguars and Panthers were both second-year expansion teams that saw 5-game improvements and both made their respective conference championship games. Also, both had more impressive runs than that. The Jags made that run to the conference title game back in 2017, and in 2003 and 2015, the Carolina Panthers went from 7 wins to a Super Bowl appearance. And finally, the 1998 Falcons went from 7-9 to 14-2 and won the NFC Championship. Overall, all these teams in this tier had eye-opening one-year turnarounds. Unfortunately, A few of these turnarounds, along with some others I haven't named yet, crashed and burned just as fast as they rose.
And that will do it. As the Rams defeat Dan Reeves' Atlanta Falcons 35-7.
First down, Bortles setting up screen. He's intercepted, and it's going to be a pick six. Field, here comes the pressure on Henny. Is intercepted. Vic under pressure, straight up the middle. Touchdown. Down to Julio Jones. Jones still on his feet. Second and 10. Elway had that one.
There have been numerous examples of these one-year wonders, some of which are so crazy they probably deserve a video on their own. But maybe the most eye-opening one-year wonders has to be the two Super Bowl teams from Super Bowl 37. The Raiders had made 3 straight playoffs to that point and possessed the MVP of the NFL, while the Bucs had made 4 straight playoffs and had one of the best defenses of all time. After that season, both teams missed the following postseason and fell into obscurity for a generation. The Bucs didn't make the playoffs for 3 years, while the Raiders didn't make it for 14 years, and neither won a playoff game for 18 years. Okay, let's get out of here and go back up to our pyramid. In wrapping up the eye-opening tier, there is one more team I'm gonna mention, the 2004 Chargers. Although they aren't as impressive as some other teams I've already talked about, I'm placing them here because of one particular player, Drew Brees. The 2004 Chargers went from 4-12 to 12-4 with a wildcard appearance. Initially, the team had drafted Phillip Rivers as Brees' replacement, but Brees played dramatically better than he did in 2003.
Touchdown.
What Drew Brees was able to do following that season saved his career. But what he was able to pull off a few years later was mind-blowing. After his shoulder injury in 2005, Brees left San Diego as they turned their attention to Phillip Rivers, and Brees nearly ended up in Miami, playing for Nick Saban. But he failed the physical, and ultimately he landed with the Saints. To this point, the Saints had been one of the saddest teams in the NFL. 39 seasons as a franchise, and just 1 playoff win. In 2006, with a rookie head coach, Sean Payton, and questions of whether or not Drew Brees would be able to get over that injury, nobody expected the Saints to do much of anything. Yet, for the second time in his career, Brees smashed all expectations and helped completely turn the team around. He led the league in passing yards. The Saints improved from 3-13 to 10-6, and made a run all the way to the conference championship game. Immediately, this was the franchise's best season in their history. 3 years later, they would make history again, going from an 8-8 team that missed the playoffs to starting 13-0 the following season and eventually winning their first ever Super Bowl.
Picked off. Look out. Tracy Porter taking it all the way.
Given the context of how bad the Saints were historically, this was truly a mind-blowing accomplishment. To match this level of insanity, you gotta be a disaster franchise, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fit that criteria. The expansion Bucs were the biggest joke in all of sports at the time.
A lot of sacks. Well, we didn't block them, but we made up for it by not tackling. We will attempt to come back next Sunday in Tampa Stadium in front of our own crowd. We've now proven we can't play on the road or in front of our own crowd. So we would like to have a neutral site. We went through 8 quarterbacks. Every time I looked up, start that guy.
After 26 straight losses, they finally won their first game. I did an entire video on just how pathetic their offense truly was in 1977. It was an embarrassment to the sport of football. In 1978, they did improve to a 5-win team, but they were still the laughingstock of American sports. In their first 3 years, they won a total of just 7 games. Then something happened. The 1979 Bucs flipped the script and shocked the sports world when they not only made the playoffs, but made a run to the NFC Championship game.
Touchdown!
It's safe to say that NFL fans, especially their own, were stunned. Now, of course, you can't forget about the 2020 Bucs. After a terrible decade of football, This guy showed up and changed everything. Tom Brady took a 7-win ball club that hadn't made the playoffs in 12 seasons and turned them into Super Bowl champions in 2020. Another shocking feat in an otherwise mind-blowing career. The last team in this tier would be the Cincinnati Bengals, who've made their own share of insane turnarounds. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. They've done this same song and dance not once, not twice, but 3 separate times in their history. Get this, in the history of the NFL, there have only been 7 teams to go from 6-10 or worse to a Super Bowl appearance the following year. It's pretty amazing that the Bengals own just less than half of those spots. But at the same time, it's also heartbreaking because they lost all 3 times. The other most recent team on this list is the 2019 49ers. Coming off a 4-12 season with questions about Kyle Shanahan's coaching ability and whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo could stay healthy, they completely flipped the script with a dominant 13-3 season, where they blew out 2 teams in the playoffs and made it to the Super Bowl. However, despite a lead in the Super Bowl, they lost. Coincidentally, the Niners have another squad that made this list, except that team did what the 2019 one couldn't do. Following a 6-10 campaign in 1980, the Niners were expected to be a forgettable bottom third roster in 1981. Instead, the NFL got their first taste of what the future of football was going to look like when a relatively unknown Joe Montana orchestrated Bill Walsh's revolutionary West Coast offense all the way to a shocking Super Bowl victory. This coincidentally came against the turnaround 81 Bengals. Now, as you might have guessed, the final 2 question mark teams on the screen are going to be mentioned at some point in this video for their accomplishments. But compared to these others, they took it to another level.
When Carson Wentz was trying to run into the sideline, his legs were tangled up underneath him. Eagles are reporting it is a left knee injury. He is done for today. We do not know the severity of the knee injury.
At this point, we've reached a level where we begin to question reality. If you saw it play out in a movie, you'd roll your eyes at times, thinking how cheesy this movie script is. Now, prior to that year, the Eagles had officially moved on from the turbulent Chip Kelly years. With first-year head coach Doug Peterson and the drafting of rookie quarterback Carson Wentz 2nd overall, they went on to have an up-and-down first season, ultimately finishing with a losing record. But it did give reason for fans to be optimistic headed into 2017. Expected to be an average playoff contender, Philly took it to the next level.
Still on his feet. It's downfield and it's caught by Nelson Aguilar for an Eagles touchdown.
Throughout a dominant regular season, the defense was tenacious, the offense was humming, and most importantly, their second-year quarterback looked like a star in the making as he built a case for MVP. That was until that fateful game late in the regular season. The injury to Wentz was a massive blow to the Eagles. Initially, it appeared as if their Super Bowl chances were out the window. The team had no choice but to turn to journeyman backup Nick Foles. At one point in time, Foles had actually been a decent quarterback in Philly, but it had been many years and a lot of bad football since then. At first, he surely didn't provide fans any hope in the team's horrific regular season finale. Yet, somehow, someway, the team rallied around him. Pinned as a team that would exit the playoffs round 1, Philadelphia beat Atlanta, crushed Minnesota, and outdueled New England in the Super Bowl to become one of the most unlikely champions in NFL history. Not only that, but Foles won the game's MVP. He was able to outduel Tom Brady, the main character of the other team in this tier. Back in 2001, Brady was a lowly backup on a bad team. The Patriots were coming off a 5-11 season, and by all metrics weren't expected to do much in 2001. They were projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, finishing with 6 to 7 wins. Their only standout offensive piece was their veteran quarterback Drew Bledsoe. To make matters worse for the Patriots, he got injured in week 2, seemingly ending their season. I mean, they were already considered a bad team. They got off to an 0-2 start, and they had to turn to their unknown backup quarterback. But despite all of this team rallied around their young 6th-round quarterback and went on to stun the football world. With a much improved defense and an offensive attack that no one saw coming, the Patriots went on to finish with a shocking 11-5 record. Then, to really put the nail in the coffin, they went on a playoff run, which did involve some controversy, but regardless of a bad rule, the Patriots advanced and won the Super Bowl. It was truly a movie-like season for them, which also launched their once unknown backup into superstardom. Now, if you thought the script for the 2017 Eagles and 2001 Patriots played out like a cheesy Disney movie, well, then you would never, for a second, believe the script for the one and only team in our final tier.
Tell us about the lobster.
Well, that's quite a segue.
Your average run-of-the-mill lobster has a brownish hue, but there are other colored lobsters, which are unfathomably rare. The odds of catching a blue lobster are 1 in 2 million. Yellow and orange and black calico lobsters come in at 1 in 30 million. Split-colored varieties have been pegged at 1 in 50 million, and the rarest of all, the white lobster, comes in at 1 in 100 million. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what does this have to do with this video? Well, I'm using it as a ridiculous transition to represent our final team. The 2001 Patriots and 2017 Eagles, in all their glory, are like finding a split-colored lobster. It almost never happens. Yet, the 1999 St. Louis Rams truly represent something so rare in the NFL, we almost certainly will never see something like it ever again. For context, the Rams were a complete disaster in 1998, going 4-12 with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL. In an attempt to repair the offense, they signed the young talented quarterback Trent Green, traded for Pro Bowler Marshall Faulk, and drafted wide receiver Torrey Holt. But even with these improvements, they were still expected to be awful, potentially winning around 5 games. And to make matters worse, Trent Green got hurt in the preseason.
Green went down hard and is not getting up. And that looks bad.
Writhing in pain, you do not want to see this.
This was a heartbreaking moment for this young team. They had no choice but to turn to their unknown backup. The fact that Kurt Warner was in the NFL was a miracle. He was a one-year starter at a small school before going undrafted. Back in 1994, like many NFL hopefuls who aren't selected, he attended an NFL training camp before he was cut prior to the season. Warner then went on to become a grocery bagger while also playing arena football. Then, after finding success in the Arena League as well as NFL Europe, Warner had proven he was good enough to be the Rams' third-string quarterback by 1998. This meant that he was a fringe practice squad type of guy. In fact, he was so unvalued by the Rams that prior to the 1999 free agency period, the NFL expansion draft required every team to allow 5 unprotected players on their roster to potentially be picked. The Rams chose Warner to be one of those players. But he wasn't selected, and because the Rams moved off their other 2 backups to make room for Trent Green, Warner became the backup. Then, after Trent Green's injury, the starter. And what followed can be described as magical.
We will rally around Kurt Warner, and we'll play good football.
Warner only 3 incompletions all day, going for Isaac Bruce. Bruce pulls away, he's got it.
The machine as Warner had trouble with the snap is over 400 yards as Warner connects with Bruce.
What Kurt Warner was able to do in his first season as the starter was like what Brady did on steroids. One day, he's bagging groceries. The next, he leads the league in completion percentage, passing touchdowns, and quarterback rating in an offense that was so fast, so unstoppable, that they were nicknamed the greatest show on turf. After a 13-3 regular season, the Rams proved it wasn't a fluke, as they capped off the playoff run with a Super Bowl victory. For modern context, imagine the Arizona Cardinals, who went 4-13 in 2023, came into the 2024 season, and Kyler Murray got injured during the preseason. Then Clayton Tune comes in, throws for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, sets numerous records, and they win the Super Bowl.
Albino lobster, guys. Woo!
I mentioned earlier how the white lobster is the rarest of them all. What's crazy is back in 2014, 2 of them were caught 5 days apart, just a few miles from each other. That's something that almost certainly wouldn't happen again. Just like seeing a guy like Kurt Warner, an undrafted, unproven quarterback, not only lead his team to a Super Bowl victory, but also win the game's MVP, as well as the regular season MVP, after the team was projected to be one of the worst in the league.